In the middle of Ohio exists a basement. Not a nasty, dirty, wet basement filled with cobwebs or a million insect corpses in the corners, nor a dry, bare, unfinished basement with nothing to sit on or to eat. This was a hobby basement, and that means mini painting. I drove all the way from Minnesota to Ohio to visit a hobbyist who has absolutely insane levels of productivity to figure out what the secret was to truly paint more miniatures. Who is this mystery miniature painter, though?
I am Vincent Venturella, hobbyist, miniature painter, YouTuber, and human being.
Vince Venturella, or Vincey V as others lovingly call him. You may or may not have heard of him before, and if you have, you likely don't know exactly how prolific of a hobbyist he is.
I paint miniatures about 40 to 60 hours every week. My goal is always at least 40 hours. I feel bad if I don't put in at least 40 hours. I have 17 painted armies for Age of Sigmar and 1 painted army for Warhammer 40k. I will say recently, I've been having less time to paint because I've had other junk to work on. Boo.
Some of you may be inclined to think that Vince paints a large volume of models, but not to a high quality, right? Surely this is the case.
I've won 2 Golden Demons. I have 2 Crystal Brushes. I have 2 Gen Con Best in Shows, 4 Nova Master Category First in Place, and then just other stuff. But those are the ones that stand out.
Let me briefly remind you that the hobby of miniature painting is not Vince's job. He has a full-time job on the side.
How much content do I make in a week for miniature painting? The easy answer is always at minimum 1 hobby cheating video a week. Then there's also spiced in things like the reviews where I review other people's stuff. And then of course Warhammer Weekly, which isn't directly hobby related, but it's the broader playing of the hobby.
All in all, Vince spends around 60 hours a week doing hobby-related activities, and that doesn't count his full-time job, spending time with his loving wife, Kathy, or their 3 beautiful dogs, his weekly D&D meetup, developing rules for a new miniature wargame once a year, and his workout regime.
Every other day, we start with push-ups. It's usually at least 75. We try to do 100 some days. Then you've got 50 normal sit-ups, 25 crunches, 25 leg lifts. You've got 3 wall sits, and you've got 50 squats. So I want to see those exact numbers.
This is not what I signed up for when I decided to be a miniature painter.
What did I sign up for, though? I want a hobby like Vince for a week. Not for any particular reason, I just want to see what I learned by the end of the process.
Sure.
Before I do that though, let's hear a brief word from our sponsor. Dragon Harper's Lodge is creating miniatures to use in D&D from characters to monsters and terrain. This month they're releasing over 75 STLs for $15. The theme is a fusion between fantasy and World War II called the Children of the Flame. The set includes dragon soldiers and war beasts and is designed to be used in both Age of Fantasy and Grimdark Future, games designed by one-page rules. The rules for these factions are fully complete and ready to be used. This army focuses on smaller units of elite troops that can pack a punch. Every month, Dragon Harper's Lodge releases a new set of models around a particular theme voted on by patrons each month. If you missed a particular release, you can browse from their collection of over 400 models on their My Mini Factory store. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can also buy physical minis and have them shipped straight to your door. This service is provided by Only Minis, a subsidiary of My Mini Factory. As if 75 STLs wasn't enough for $15, there is even an added bonus. Channeling their inner holiday spirit, Dragon Harper's Lodge is running an advent calendar event where they release a bonus Christmas-themed miniature every day leading up to Christmas. You can find links to their Patreon and their My Mini Factory in the description below. Now back to living like Vince. The first 3 days of my hobby marathon started out at Vince's house in the belly of the beast. I put up some serious numbers in these first 3 days, but it was kind of easy. Vince has carefully cultivated the ultimate painting dojo surrounded by his completed works, his tools, his games, and more. When you're in that basement, all there is to think about is miniatures. It's a pretty inspiring place.
6 years ago now, I walked by the cabinets at Gen Con when I was just really starting to get into the idea of competitive miniature painting. And I saw Marika Reimer win Best in Show, and actually Sam got second place that year, I believe. And I said, I want to win one of those. I want that. I set that as a personal goal for myself. I was so inspired. And 2018 was the year I took Best in Show. So 3 years later, I got Best in Show there, which was like, that was just one of the happier moments of all time. I was not there to get the award because they told me the wrong time for the award ceremony.
In those first 3 caramel and cheesy popcorn fueled days, I managed to finish a squad of 10 skeletons, finish a vampire lord on zombie dragon, and start a 3rd unit of blood knights, fully completing 1 of them. I'm not totally sold on this paint scheme for my blood knights, but I wanted my 3rd unit to look unique compared to the other 10. Like this one was an especially elite unit.
Miniature painting to me represents a lot. I've always liked creating things. Well, this is creative, and you get to make things. I've always liked to be artistic, even if I wasn't very good at it. This is something you can be artistic with. I get to teach others and share with others. I like educating people. Like, I like to feel like I can share something with people that's valuable to them. That's really rewarding, just to know that you have something that you can tell somebody else and it'll help improve their life in some way. That's pretty cool. Ultimately, it makes you part of a pretty awesome community. It's small, it's niche, but we all know each other. And a lot of the best friends I have and the best people I know are people I met through this hobby and through miniature painting. One of them is sitting across from me right now.
Eventually, I had to go back home with my own wife and dogs, but hobbing like Vince continued in earnest. I wanted to cast some more bases for my Greyjoy army so I could finally base all these models that I've been painting one at a time. And then this happened. As if Vince himself was cursing me for painting something other than GW models. I knew the moment I had showered 8 of my painted Greyjoy characters in white, opaque, fast-curing resin that my fate was pretty much sealed. I helplessly tried to rinse off the resin with isopropyl and a soft brush, thinking that the paint was strong enough to withstand some light brushing, hoping that maybe the resin would rinse away, but that just seemed to make everything worse. Chipping the cured resin off afterwards seemed to take the paint with it as well. As if this particular day wasn't bad enough, I also spilled my water cup all over my floor.
When I look around at other people, I really feel like I've accomplished almost nothing. I always feel like the horizon is so far away where they are versus where I am. I think that's just because I'm never happy with what I accomplish. I always read my failures stronger than my successes. 1,000 people celebrate your work. 1 person tells you it's junk. You don't remember the 1,000. You remember the 1, right? That sort of negativity bias. There's still so much more to learn. There's still so much more to do. There's still so much more I want to accomplish. And sometimes that can be a little demoralizing, but most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's inspiring because I think, awesome, there's still 1,000,000 miles ahead of me of road to explore. This isn't going to run out. I'm not going to get bored with it. As we've all probably cycled through hobbies in our lives. All miniature painters, all of us who are doing this. I bet you had other hobbies at some point. And the road ran out on them. You were done. They were able to be done. I don't know what done looks like here. I want to keep going until I feel like I understand what the magic is.
Despite our failings and mistakes as hobbyists, like dousing your painted models you spent 2 to 4 hours on each in smooth-on liquid plastic, it's important to relentlessly search for that magic. With Vince's motivating words echoing in my head, the hobbying continued. I finished up those cursed bases, painted a unit of silenced men and drowned men, but didn't finish them before my week was over. Because my painting setup isn't super great at my home at the moment, I instead spent my time adding my own 3D supports to these models that came pre-supported. The supports were trash. I also did some experiments to see what size of the model would work best in my army, and I printed off a unit of 10. If you're curious what I'll be using these models for, they'll be Graveguard proxies in my Soulblight Graveyard army for Age of Sigmar. All in all, I hobbied for 60 hours over the course of a week, and this is what I finished in that week. It might feel really easy to be disheartened by this video. You might compare yourself to Vince and think you don't have the tenacity to pursue the hobby like him. You might think that because you don't paint miniatures as a full-time job like I do, you can never make progress on your armies. In some cases, that is true. You probably don't have time to work on your creative projects for 60 hours in any given week. But luckily for you and me, this hobby doesn't exist in the sprints.
I don't think you need to spend the amount of time I do to paint like I do, what I do, or whatever. I think that it's just about deliberate practice, using whatever time you have wisely. Painting can just be relaxing and you can not be working on anything or learning anything. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if advancement is the goal, then use your time to the best of your ability. Even if you're just painting a bunch of dudes in a unit that's just some boring unit of 40 dudes, then practice your blending on each one of those dudes, or your highlighting, or set your level of contrast, or practice your NMM, or whatever. I don't care what it is. Paint a little every day, 30 minutes, an hour, something like that. Find the time, set it aside, and you'll advance. That's it.
If I were to spread out my 60 hours over the course of a month, that's 2 hours of hobbying a day, which is more manageable. Would you be happy with this progress for 2 hours a day over the course of a month? What if I painted 1 hour a day and accomplished less? One of the things I hate about YouTube's effect on the hobby is that because us creators are focused on entertaining, we frame the hobby in intentionally ridiculous ways, like for the purposes of spectacle in videos where I paint 38 hours straight or try to paint an army in a weekend. The problem with that is it doesn't represent the normal hobbyist. It can make one feel like in order to make significant progress, you must put in 20 hours over the weekend or 40 hours over the course of a week, but that is patently false. Not only does it discourage people by putting a massive barrier in between us and our end goals, but it teaches people to value the end result more than the process, which makes the painting insufferable. What else in your life are you more concerned with the outcome than the process? Maybe your job? I don't know about you, but I want to enjoy painting more and more. Focusing on what I'm able to accomplish in any given time frame or on my failures and inabilities as a hobbyist really sucks the life out of it. This may seem obvious to you, but sometimes I need to stare my painting demons in the face in order to realign with my actual goals. Living like Vince for a week taught me to enjoy the ride. The road is as long as you want it to be. May as well drive at whatever speed you want in whatever vehicle you desire. Thank you so much to Vince for inviting me into your home, allowing me to film your space and your answers to my questions, and for helping me to make this video. If you want to support Vince, and I'd really appreciate it if you did, please check out his YouTube channel or pick up a copy of Rain in Hell or Space Station Zero. I'll have both those things linked down in the description below. That's gonna do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you have a fantastic holiday season. If you like my channel and you want to support it, there are many ways to do that, all things linked down in the description below. Don't forget to check out this week's sponsor, Dragon Trappers Lodge. Yeah, that'll do it. Subscribe or die! And most importantly, don't forget to paint more metal!